I figure we've been doing so good lately. It's
Yeah.
about time we, maybe get canceled by talking about like a really controversial topic.
Okay.
And so this is actually it's a very good topic because it's really hot in the news right now, and it's something that is controversial, and it's something that I'd like all of us to kind of look at very objectively and kind of weigh in on this. And I pulled some data, and it is gender transition in minors, and this is a big thing. Like, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, and unfortunately, like everything, it's been made very political, which I'm I'm just like such a middle politics kind of person that like all of like the outside stuff just kind of gets to me or whatever. And so I hate to see that, but the topic is very big today, and it's something that I think is worth discussing because
Sure.
it's there are definitely some pros and cons to it. And I want to start out by saying that I do gender transition surgeries. It's not something that like I'm known for. I'm like not there is a guy here in Dallas that's kind of known for just literally doing that. But since I do specialize in breast surgery, I've actually had quite a few people come through, doing male to female or female to male transitions and want to do their breasts.
Right.
And that's totally fine. I mean, I'm totally happy to do that for people, provided everything's right. There's a few check boxes you have to make sure that they're ready to go through something like that. And all the ones I've done, people have been very happy and had good results. But when it comes to minors, I mean, I think it's just a whole another conversation to have. And so, I mean, the first thing I guess to talk about is like, what does gender transition in minors include? And so there's kind of 5 parts, and there's probably more parts. It's just the 5 categories that I broke it down to. And one would be like social transition. So that's like a name change, pronouns, appearance, that kind of thing. Then of course, the mental health support, like, having a counselor and, really talking to a child to make sure this is something that is real and not, just like something flippant.
Right.
Then it comes into the things that are a little bit more impactful from a health and like long-standing situation, which would be hormone therapies, such as, giving a female child testosterone or a male child estrogen to kind of reverse the sexual characteristics. And then going on to even more dramatic things like surgery, which is happening, these days. And the last part would be just like a full-on legal change, like changing, birth. I don't know if they even change birth certificates, but changing legal documents to signify that, okay, this person has now transitioned to the opposite gender. And so, I think from our standpoint, what I wanted to talk about was more the hormone therapy and surgical therapy, because as I'm going to say later, I mean, these are the things that are sort of a point of no return. The social construct, the mental health stuff, all of that can be reversed, right? But once you start doing things like medical therapy and surgery, I mean, I don't want to say that they 100% can't be reversed, but it becomes extremely difficult and, I would say near impossible to completely reverse that, to what I would think was appropriate. So as is with everything, I like to take a very neutral approach. I like to block out all the noise, all the extremes, and talk about things from a scientific standpoint, and make a rational kind of decision about this. And so I wanted to make a pros and cons list of like, what are the pros and cons of starting gender transition, in a minor. And so for pros, things like, an early intervention can alleviate gender dysphoria and increase quality of life. There are some studies that definitely show that. Earlier transition gives a child longer time to adjust to their new self.
Okay.
It can improve mental health. If the child has very severe gender dysphoria, I mean, it can be very, unsettling to them to the point that it affects their life.
Right.
And, starting the transition has been shown to increase that mental health. It also can increase their self-esteem, which increases functioning in a day-to-day, situation, which is obviously a good thing. And, starting early can alleviate stress, for the child. So, when you look at those, you're like, okay, I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable. But what about the cons? All right. So for the cons, list things like identity not being fully formed. I mean, depending on the age of the child, like children are whimsical and they do change their minds. I mean,
yes.
like constantly. As a mother, you know that. As a father, I know that. And that means that someone may want to transition at one point, and then there's a word called desisting. I mean, this is kind of a new word to me.
I've never heard of it.
When I was doing the research for this, the word desisting kept popping up. I'm not even sure I'm saying it right. Travis, desisting, is that right? Do you know?
I am not sure.
You're not sure? Okay.
I've never heard of this before.
Desisting, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that to anyone out there who's truly an expert in this.
It's the opposite of assisting?
Desisting, maybe. we should ask ChatGPT. Also, some of the cons, there is the possibility that parents would use this to fix behavior, that a child may be acting out and this would be their solution, which
like when a kid acts out because they want a toy or candy or ice cream.
Right, but on a bigger scale, yeah. But yes, that's true. This one's the big one for me. Interventions can have enormous, long-lasting effects, and as I said, that can potentially not be reversible. Also, there's very limited research on the long-term outcomes of this.
Yeah.
There is research out there, which we're going to talk about. And then lastly, which is probably the least important, at least from my standpoint, would be the negative connotation with transitioning. I mean, in my opinion, people are free to do what they want. Now, with a child, we're going to talk about that is a little bit more sticky. But the fact that somebody might be, discriminatory against them. I mean, I just hate that so much. I hate to do it. So looking at all those pros and cons. I mean, I hate to put you guys on the spot, but what do you guys think about this? I mean, I'm going to give my opinion. You want me to go first, or?
I can. I don't care. In my opinion, if my daughter asked to do any of that, I don't know that I would take it very seriously. Honestly. Yeah. Because just knowing my daughter.
Yeah. Right.
I know that one minute she is crying and screaming on the floor for
so you'd be
one
more
specific thing, and then one minute she's over it. Even if I give it to her, she's like done with it. It's in like a toy. It's like
so
in her
specifically
closet,
for your child,
it.
You feel like it would more likely be a temporary thing.
Yes, it would be like I want to be like fair. This because of this superhero, but just for a little bit.
Yeah. Travis, do you got any opinions on this?
Not anything.
I know it's a big topic, but I mean, you can be neutral. If you want.
No, I'm not neutral on it. I'll like stand on the side. I don't mind. I think, like you said, it's a really touchy subject, and I think kids do change their minds. So you have to be very careful with it.
Yeah.
Not to do it too soon or too early or something like that. But
I mean, this is like an impossible question to ask somebody. I mean,
absolutely.
There's a lot of transgender adults that are like,
Facts.
do not do this to your child, because like even when they were adolescents. They had no idea.
Yeah, they weren't sure.
Right.
So, I'll give my opinion on this. As I said, I do transition surgeries. I do them on adults. As a doctor, as a physician, I'm against it. I'm against doing the more long-lasting things like hormone therapy and surgery. The other parts, totally fine.
Hormones are serious.
Yeah, business. Totally. Absolutely. So, I mean, here's why I say this, In the United States, the age of consent for someone to have a medical procedure is 18 years old. And there's a set reason for that. And the reasons are stated that a minor very well may not have the intellectual capability to understand a procedure, understand the risks and benefits, and understand the long-lasting effects.
Take this, for example. Like, I have gotten my tooth pulled before, but whenever I was a kid, and I had no problem with it. Like, I was just like, yeah, do it, whatever. But as an adult, when they were doing it, it was like, I know what can happen, and I know the risks and all of that. So I feel like kids just don't know. They're just ignorant to it. And so I feel like even for something simple like getting your tooth pulled is like, I don't know.
So because I, as a doctor, really hold that consent thing, to be very important. I mean, consenting and understanding a procedure before you have it, to me, is just the ultimate importance. I just morally find that very hard to swallow. And then the second, the second reason, I have a few reasons. The second reason is I worry about the legal implications down the road. And, and not to say that, I'm making this decision because I'm watching out for myself, but just I see the potential lawsuits down the road because...
Well, you run a business, so it's like...
Right. I mean, as a surgeon, I do occasionally review cases for malpractice for plaintiffs because I like to make sure that plastic surgery is done properly. And so, in an instance where a lawsuit came up where somebody 10 years after surgery said, my life is ruined because I had this, and this doctor did this to me.
Took advantage of me or something.
Right, this doctor did this to me, and I was a child. How could I have consented to that? What would I say? I mean, of course there are the fact that they have to go see psychiatrists, and there's all that. But still, like, at the end of the day, they're right. I mean, they can't make that decision at that age. Mm-hmm. The last thing that I would kind of rely on is the research, okay?
Yeah.
So to me, what the most important question is, how many of these children 10 years from now are going to regret that decision, okay? And there's some research out there in the rate of desistance for gender dysphoria in kids. And the problem is that it is all over the map. When you look at the studies, there's one study that says it's 2%, which is just unbelievably low. There's one study that says it's 90%, which is kind of unbelievably high.
Yeah.
So when you look at like the group of studies, and there is a literature review, 2018 Journal Archives of Sexual Behavior. It looked at 10 different studies, and the rates of desisting, meaning the people that regretted doing transition, range from 40 to 88%. All right.
Okay.
So even if you went on the low end and say half of people regret this decision, I'm out. I mean, I'm out. Like, if half the people are going to regret this enormously life-altering decision...
Well, it's like, would people be jumping out of airplanes if half the people
hit
were
the ground?
dying?
Yeah, no,
No.
I don't think so. So,
Silly.
once again, I like to go on, like, what is the best for the patient and, what does the research show? And at least by my humble opinion, based on my research, it's no. It's I absolutely not.
No.
And I did look into some of the data about what increases the risk of desisting, meaning people that regret it. Younger age at the diagnosis of gender dysphoria makes total sense. And the younger they are, the more likely they are to not know what they want. Assigned male at birth, so meaning boys wanting to go to girls are more likely to regret it. And then lastly, less severe gender dysphorias, meaning they're just kind of have gender dysphoria. And for those, I mean, I assume everyone knows gender dysphoria, meaning you're not comfortable with your gender. So, I mean, if you look at that data, it's hard for me to agree that this is a good thing. I mean, I can't, so I don't know. I mean, I know there's people out there who probably think I'm a horrible person because of that, but I mean, I really am coming to this from a very neutral, honest, kind of scientific kind of approach. And, people can cherry pick data and say, oh, well, look at this study that says only 2% of, people regret it. Well, okay, but then there's a study that says 90% of people regret it. So you got to kind of look at everything and not cherry pick data. And man, looking at that, I think it's a bad idea,
Yeah.
And then it brings in the question of, should doctors be willing to do this? I mean, I personally think no. I mean, I think that's controversial to say, but that's just what I believe. And then, should it be illegal? There's places passing laws. There's states, more conservative states are passing laws that say that it's illegal for them to do this. That one I'm weighing out of. I mean, I'm a very kind of libertarian guy, so I don't believe in a lot of laws. But then again, my only exception would be laws for children. Like, I don't believe in seatbelt laws. I don't believe in helmet laws. But kids can't make that decision, right? So for them, I think there should be protections, and that kind of does fall into this. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's a crazy thing. There's been so much talk about it in the news, and like people get very kind of hysterical and partisan about it. And
I feel like we just need to, as a society, just not buy into the whole, like, you can do whatever you want as long as you're happy. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you should also be happy with who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's as a plastic surgeon, it's weird to say that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, to a certain degree, you need to be happy with who you are. But once again, as an adult, if you're of sound mind and body and want to make a decision, I'm all for that. I mean, like I said, I do the surgeries for adults, but I mean, for kids,
That's
I'm
a
out.
scary thought.
Well, if you watch this segment, please tell me what you think, and please be nice in the comments. I mean, we try to have rational, honest discussion here, so please don't make the comments a flame section. But I'd love to know what you guys think, and maybe explain if you have a different point of view. Explain it to me. I'm always willing to listen to opposite.